dynamic business environment and other micro and macro socioeconomic factors have had organizations institutionalize effective change management processes the world over. To capture the essence of managing a change intervention, the LNOD Roundtable sought to bring out success stories of effective management and stewardship of change in organizations across sizes, industry sectors, and geographies. The Best Change Interventions of Asia study, launched in December 2012, culminated into a gala award ceremony on 2nd July 2013, bringing to conclusion months of groundwork of identifying and acknowledging leading change agents in India.
And we went on to be able to look at, do we have within our organizations knowledge management platforms? Do we have the ability, especially as we all struggle with being able to retain talent, do we have the ability to be able to keep within the organization the tacit knowledge, the knowledge that belongs to the organization, knowledge that's in the minds of people, or do we lose knowledge when people leave? Clearly, change management is among the top 3 most wanted competencies within organizations today. And therefore, what does it take to become a change champion? What does it take to be a successful change leader, transformation leader? Is it really about leadership and being a visionary, or is it about being a manager, or is it about being both? And we'll find out more about it when you hear the stories of the 12 finalist organizations that will present their stories here this afternoon. This process has been conducted with a huge amount of rigor. We announced it last year, and in August last year, and we got the entries in by early this year. We have a very, very esteemed jury, one of them from outside the country, 4 very leading professionals from inside India, all change experts who took a look at the entries that came in. We had 40 organizations that expressed interest in the first round and came forward. We had about 22 of them who made it through the first shortlist, and finally today we have 12 compelling change stories to share with you this afternoon. But how can we get to organizational change without looking at the macro agenda on change management? So what you're going to experience, ladies and gentlemen, this morning is going to be a very humbling experience, and I can tell you that. And the reason I'm saying it's a humbling experience is because you're going to see people who are going to talk about massive change agendas and what the country, what the nation needs to do to be able to get around these change agendas. And therefore, our keynote addresses, and both our very outstanding keynote speakers, are going to be talking to us about transforming India. Transforming India. How can India truly become a superpower? I want you all to put your hands together and give a thunderous applause to our chief guest for today, Mr. Sudhir Vasudeva. He'll be talking to us about transforming India. How can India truly become a superpower?
Let me talk about the ingredients and trends that can certainly make us a superpower. So let me talk about my hopes, which is evident from the trends. First, the economic story of India is certainly of hope, irrespective of whatever is happening today, all the trials and tribulations. Our GDP is rising so rapidly that its annual increment is in fact more, or it exceeds the GDP of countries like Portugal or Norway. During the last 1.5 decades, we reduced our over-dependence on agriculture for growth of our economy. We have sufficiently suppressed our love for red tapeism, encouraging our unfettered corporate world to increasingly embrace entrepreneurship, which has shackled the Hindu rate of growth of 2 to 3% to achieve more than 7% consistently since the year 1997, barring the last year. Several studies are available on the internet. Some of them forecast that India would be the numero uno economy by 2050. The second trend is the urbanization. According to 2011 census, the percentage of Indians moving or living in urban areas has increased from 27.8% in 2001 to 31.2% in 2011. Also, for the first time, the urban population grew more than the rural population in absolute terms. The mobile miracle with television has empowered each and everyone cutting across the socio-economic strata to have access to the real-time information, resulting in a new breed of awakened Indian population. Their fired aspirations today do not only seek improvement in the quality of life through continual improvement in infrastructure and government services, but also demand a faster development and a better governance. The dividing line of caste, creed, and ethnic root is gradually waning and making the place for only one parameter, and that is development. The agenda of inclusive growth needs to be addressed in letter and spirit. Projects like Aadhaar, which is support to downtrodden, is certainly a right step in that direction, through which the direct subsidy would be given. Even in an era of rapid economic growth, the process that have shaped inequalities in the country along gender, caste, and religious lines continue to persist. For some outcomes, for example, regional and urban rural inequalities are even more important than other forms of social inequality. Addressing these inequalities is going to be a crucial policy change in the coming decades. These were the words of Dr. Pranav Sen, Chief Statistician of India, in his foreword to the report, Human Development in India, published by the Oxford Press. Apart from the various initiatives taken by the government, the corporate sector can definitely play a very important role for inclusive growth. Some companies are there which have traditionally been functioning in a sensible and responsible manner, taking the community along in the process of their growth. Some companies have been spending a good amount of their profits much before the government brought the agenda of corporate social responsibility of compulsorily spending between 0.5% to 2% of their profit after taxes through CSR initiatives. Economic growth alone does not automatically translate into human development progress. Pro-poor policies and significant investment in people's capability through a focus on education, nutrition and health, and employment skills can expand access to decent work and provide for sustained progress. Healthy and educated citizen is the cornerstone for a civilized society and the first requisite for an economy to become a superpower. The youth will be central towards achieving this goal, for which they must be suitably empowered through grassroots education. In conclusion, let me quote Shashi Tharoor once again, and I quote, "The challenge of bringing the country's infrastructure into 21st century, the hardware of development is immense. So too is the software, the human capital without which no country develops. We must do much more to promote education, sanitation, basic health, and end to caste and gender discrimination. Only then can we produce Indians truly ready to take India to the top in the 21st century." And I agree totally.
And has been a very outstanding TED speaker for those of you who have been able to access his very inspiring TED Talk. Put your hands together to join me in welcoming Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan to deliver the keynote address.
When Ellen Dodie invited me, I was actually hesitating. Is there a purpose to this? Apart from the fact that I was really uncertain about my ability to spare time. Is there a purpose to it? And I thought there is one meaningful purpose that we could all accomplish, and that is to look at India's future with unvarnished eyes. Because when you look at India, there are two extreme views prevailing today. One is the irrational exuberance. Oftentimes, the 9% growth rate sustained in 20 years' time will become superpower A. The other is this enormous sense of desperation and prevailing pessimism. I think we should try and see that these two extremes are avoided. A balanced appreciation of what is possible, what is realistic, where we are wrong, what are our strengths, and how do we go forward taking advantage of the opportunities that are available to us. And that, I think, is the way forward, really. The point I'm making is, please view India from a historical prism. Don't view it as a snapshot. It is essentially a motion picture. Yes, there are many, many difficult obstacles we have to navigate. Yes, we have messed up in quite a few areas. We all know that. It's self-evident. The point is we can easily overcome them if we have good sense. That's what education, organization, learning, and historical experience are about. Do we wallow in self-pity, or do we say, damn it, let's do the following things in order to set right this country's conditions and fulfill our potential? The choice is ours as a country. We are talking about the practical things. We are talking about economic growth. Unquestionably, no matter what anybody says, a country that has no economic growth and GDP cannot be a major power in the world today, cannot be a significant factor. So anybody who says economy is not important, there are many other spiritual things, well, I salute you, but I think you're not living in a practical world. We undoubtedly want economic growth, and that means not only growth rate, but the ability to contain the fiscal deficit and the current account deficit, which is a huge problem today. We simply are consuming more than we produce. No nation can afford that on a perpetual basis. We have to do something about it. Not everything is beyond our control. Yes, energy for the time being, there's a problem. Mr. Vasudeva explained how India is relatively poor in terms of conventional energy sources. But there are many other areas. We inflict damage to ourselves. There's no reason why we should buy every year $70 billion worth of gold in this country. It's ridiculous. So there are some things which can be changed by culture, by education, by understanding, by giving a greater sense of security. But most of all, we can easily produce a lot more. I don't understand why we should import every day 5 truckloads of mobile phones for 1 billion telephone strength in this country because we don't produce one damn telephone in this country. It's a shame. That's where jobs come. It costs at least 100 times more for this country. We are uniquely privileged because you are in the first generation in human history when we have the technology and the resources to fulfill most of our dreams, fulfill much of human potential, and eliminate most of the avoidable suffering. If you really want to choose when you should live, I would say this is the best of all times. We are lucky. We are so privileged because so much more can be accomplished, but only if you are wise, if you are sensible. The problem is not resources or technology. The problem is wisdom. The problem is the will. The problem is the passion and the drive and the dynamism. If you don't even dream, the Sanskrit sloka says, Omkara parivrittam vishvam, sankalpa parimitam drishyam. If sankalpa, if that will, if that is very limited, then your worldview is very limited. You can never become great. The problem is not with resources and technology. I'm not saying you have unlimited resources. I'm not an idiot. Well, my wife believes I am. But I do believe that I'm not too much of an idiot, at least. Resources are important. Nobody has unlimited resources. No country has them. Not America, not China. But we have reasonable resources of all kinds together. We have technology. We have opportunities. We are underperforming, not because we don't have them. We simply don't have sankalpa. But somebody, and not one somebody, but thousands of somebodies in every sector must stand up and look at India with a fresh eye and say, damn it, let's get this done. My hope is that it's fora like this that will create that kind of energy, collective, informed assertion to help transform India and convert this angst, this ennui, this sense of desperation into something positive and creative and something that can actually deliver not in the distant future, 40, 50 years later, in the long time as somebody said we're all dead, but in the intermediate term. In the next 5 to 10 years, India can have all the ingredients to be a great superpower. It will not become a superpower instantly, but in 10 years' time, we can build all this and create the infrastructure to then become a superpower in the next 20 years after that. It's not beyond our capability. We have lost some time, but all is not yet lost. But if we simply wallow in self-pity, or if we have unrealistic expectations, then I'm afraid we will not perish as a country suddenly, but we'll continue to do what we're doing. We're good at it. This plodding and pushing and underperforming, becoming also ran. Do you remember? There was a time when there was ABC of tennis, Amrutraj, Borg, and Connors. They were called ABC of tennis. What happened to Borg and Connors? What happened to Amrutraj? Let's not become Amrutrajas. Let's be Borg and Connors. Thank you.